Do you believe that a man could die alone in a small hotel room with almost no money or fame, yet his ideas would go on to light up nearly the entire world today? This story is not just about an inventor, but about the journey of a mind that could see the future when the world was not ready to believe in it. In the middle of this story, you will discover why he became the rival of Thomas Edison, is less than #0, 7# is greater than. And by the end, you will understand why many people believe he was born a full century ahead of his time. If you enjoy learning English through fascinating historical stories like this, remember the name of the channel, Echoes of Time. And now let us begin the journey of Nikola Tesla. The story begins on a summer night in 1,856 inches, a small village located in what is now Croatia. The sky suddenly erupted into a violent storm. Lightning flashed across the sky and thunder shook the small house where a woman was giving birth. The midwife looked out at the storm, shook her head, and said that this child would be a child of darkness. But the mother simply smiled calmly. Is less than #0, 7# is greater than, she said, a sentence that many people would remember later. No, my son will be a child of light. The baby born during that stormy night was Nikola Tesla. Nikola Tesla grew up in a very modest family. His father was a priest in the local church, and his mother was an incredibly intelligent and skillful woman. Even though she could not read or write, she had a remarkable talent for creativity. She often built small tools with her own hands in the kitchen to make daily tasks easier. Young Tesla would often stand beside her watching her work for hours. Is less than #0, 7# is greater than. From those simple moments, Tesla learned how to think, imagine, and create new things. Tesla's childhood was not only filled with curiosity and creativity. A great tragedy happened when he was still very young. Tesla's older brother died in a sudden accident. The loss plunged the family into deep grief, and Tesla often felt that part of the blame belonged to him. That sense of guilt stayed with him for many years. But instead of breaking him, the pain became a powerful source of energy. His less than #0, 7# is greater than Tesla began to think more, imagine more, and spent much of his time living in the world inside his own mind. From an early age, Tesla had a very unusual ability. He could imagine complex machines in his mind with every detail clearly visible, as if they truly existed right in front of him. While many inventors needed paper and pencils to draw their designs, Tesla almost never did. His mind itself was the laboratory. He could rotate, test, and even repair a complete machine entirely within his imagination. Is less than #0, 7# is greater than. This extraordinary ability was what later allowed him to create inventions far ahead of his time. Tesla also experienced strange sensations that many people could not understand. At times, he would see intense flashes of light or extremely vivid images appearing in his mind. Sometimes it was difficult for him to tell what was real and what was imagination. But instead of frightening him, these visions helped him see ideas that others simply could not see. Is less than #0, 7# is greater than. Years later, these flashes in his mind would help Tesla imagine the first electrical machines he would eventually create. When Tesla was 17, his life once again stood on the edge between life and death. He contracted a very dangerous illness, cholera, and was confined to bed for many months. The doctors had almost lost hope, and his family was preparing for the worst. One day, Tesla's father sat beside his bed and asked what he wanted most if he were able to live. Weak but determined, Tesla answered clearly he wanted to study engineering and become an engineer. Tesla's father finally agreed to his wish. And then something remarkable happened. After receiving that promise from his father, Tesla slowly began to recover his strength. Many people later said that it was his powerful will and dream that saved his life. Tesla was eventually allowed to attend university to study engineering. This became the first step on the path that would lead him to inventions capable of changing the world. In 1875, Tesla began studying at the University of Graz in Austria. From the very first days, he became known as the most hard-working student in the class. Tesla could read and study almost the entire day. There were days when he studied for up to 20 hours straight and slept only a few short hours. His professors began to worry because his workload was so intense. But Tesla could not stop. Is less than #0. 7# is greater than. For him, every book and every lecture was a door opening to new ideas. One day in class, a professor brought in a new electrical machine to demonstrate to the students. It was a motor that used direct current, also known as DC. As the machine operated, the brushes inside produced small sparks. The professor explained that this was completely normal, but Tesla immediately noticed a problem. He stood up and said that those sparks showed the design was not perfect and that there must certainly be a better way. When Tesla said there had to be a better way to build an electric motor, the entire class almost burst into laughter. The professor looked at him and said it was impossible. According to the knowledge of that time, electric motors always needed brushes to operate. But Tesla refused to accept that answer. In his mind, the machine was still not perfect, is less than #0. 7# is greater than he believed that one day he would discover a different electrical system, one that was more efficient, cleaner, and more powerful. The laughter he heard that day did not discourage him. Instead, it only strengthened his determination to prove that he was right. For many years afterward, Tesla kept thinking about the same question: how could electricity be transmitted farther and more efficiently? At that time, the most common electrical system was direct current, often called DC. This system had been developed by Thomas Edison and was already being used in many cities. But direct current had a major problem. It could only transmit electricity over short distances. 1 is less than #0. 7# is greater than. This meant that many small power plants had to be built everywhere. Tesla believed there had to be a better solution for the future. The moment that changed history came in 1882 inches, Budapest. One afternoon, Tesla was walking through a park with a friend. As they walked, the two of them talked about literature and poetry. The sky was slowly turning into the colors of sunset. Suddenly, Tesla stopped. He stood still for a few seconds, his eyes wide as if he had just seen something incredibly important. In his mind, an image appeared as clearly as if it were real. Is less than #0. 7# is greater than. It was a complete electric motor powered by an entirely different kind of current. Tesla immediately picked up a stick and drew the machine on the ground. He explained to his friend that it was a motor powered by alternating current, or AC. Unlike direct current, alternating current can continuously change direction. This allows electricity to be transmitted over very long distances without losing too much energy. Tesla's friend did not fully understand the meaning of the simple drawing on the ground at that moment. Is less than #0. 7# is greater than. But Tesla knew that he had just seen the future of the world's electrical system. A few years later, Tesla decided to travel to America to turn his ideas into reality. In 1884, he boarded a ship bound for New York. When he arrived in the United States, Tesla had almost nothing with him. In his pocket were only 4 cents a book of poetry and a letter of introduction. That letter was written for Thomas Edison, who was considered the most famous inventor in America at the time. For Tesla, this journey was like a great gamble in his life. Tesla soon made his way to Edison's laboratory and handed him the letter of introduction. In the letter was a famous line, "I know two great men. One is you, and the other is standing before you." Edison quickly realized that Tesla was an extraordinarily intelligent man and decided to hire him. However, the two of them had completely different ways of thinking. Is less than #0. 7# is greater than Edison preferred to experiment repeatedly until he found a solution, while Tesla liked to calculate and design everything in his mind before beginning the work. Edison gave Tesla a very difficult task to improve the company's direct current generators. He told Tesla that if he could make the machines work more efficiently, he would pay him $50,000. At that time, it was an enormous amount of money. Tesla worked almost without rest. Day after day, he repaired, improved, and redesigned the entire system. He is less than #0. 7# is greater than. Finally, after many months of hard work, Tesla completed the task and went to see Edison to receive his reward. But what happened next shocked Tesla deeply. When Tesla mentioned the $50,000, Edison simply laughed and said it had only been a joke. He told Tesla that he did not understand American humor. For Tesla, this was not just about money, it was about honor. He felt betrayed. Immediately, Tesla decided to leave Edison's company. Is less than #0. 7# is greater than. That moment marked the beginning of one of the most famous rivalries in the history of science, the battle between two electrical systems. After leaving the company, Tesla entered one of the hardest periods of his life. He had no money and no laboratory to continue his research. To survive, Tesla had to take on very difficult manual labor jobs. At times, he even worked digging ditches on the streets just to earn some money. But even while holding a shovel, his mind was still thinking about alternating current. Is less than #0. 7# is greater than. Tesla believed that if he were given the chance, his system could change the way the world used electricity. Luck finally arrived when Tesla met a businessman named George Westinghouse. Unlike many others, Westinghouse understood the potential of the alternating current system. He decided to invest money to help Tesla build and develop this technology. The partnership between Tesla and Westinghouse opened the door to a major competition in the electrical industry. On one side was Edison's direct current system, and on the other was Tesla's alternating current system. Is less than #0. 7# is greater than. This conflict later became known as the War of Currents. The battle between the two electrical systems quickly became very intense. Thomas Edison knew that if Tesla's alternating current succeeded, the entire electrical system he had invested so much money in would become obsolete. So Edison began a powerful public campaign to make people fear alternating current. He told newspapers that this type of electricity was extremely dangerous and could kill people. Is less than #0. 7# is greater than. Edison even organized public demonstrations where animals were electrocuted with alternating current to prove how dangerous it was. While Edison tried to create fear, Tesla chose a completely different path. He believed the best way to prove the power of science was through real results. Tesla began organizing public scientific demonstrations. During these events, he allowed alternating current to pass through his body to light the bulbs he held in his hands. The audience was both amazed and curious. These demonstrations showed that alternating current could be controlled and used safely. The major turning point of the battle came in 1893 at the World's Fair in Chicago. It was a massive event where millions of people came to see the technologies of the future. The organizers needed an electrical system to illuminate the entire exhibition. Edison wanted his system to be used, but in the end, the contract was awarded to Westinghouse and Tesla. This was the perfect opportunity to prove that alternating current could light up an entire city. The opening night of the fair became a historic moment. When the switch was turned on, more than 100,000 light bulbs lit up at the same time. The entire exhibition suddenly shone as bright as daylight. Millions of people stood in amazement. Many of them had never seen electric light so brilliant before. This event completely changed the way the public viewed electricity. Is less than #0. 7# is greater than. From that moment on, alternating current was no longer something to fear. It became a symbol of the future. But Tesla's true victory came a few years later at Niagara Falls. This was one of the largest engineering projects of that era. Engineers wanted to build a massive power plant that would use the force of the waterfalls to generate electricity. The most important question was, which electrical system should be used? After years of research and debate, they decided to use Tesla's alternating current technology. Is less than #0. 7# is greater than. It was a decision that could change the entire electrical industry. In 1896, the generators at Niagara Falls began operating. Electricity from the powerful waterfall was transmitted dozens of kilometers to the city of Buffalo. For many people at the time, it seemed almost like a miracle. For the first time in history, electricity could be transmitted over such long distances with high efficiency. The success of the Niagara project proved that Tesla's system was the best solution for the future. Is less than #0. 7# is greater than. From that point on, most electrical systems around the world were built based on the principle of alternating current. After these great successes, Tesla became very famous. He lived in New York and often appeared at elegant parties alongside well-known scientists, businessmen, and artists. He wore expensive suits, dined in luxurious restaurants, and was praised by newspapers as a genius. However, inside, Tesla remained very different from most people. He did not enjoy complicated social relationships and often felt more comfortable being alone with his ideas. Tesla also had many unusual habits that surprised the people around him. He was deeply obsessed with the number 3 and often did things according to his own special rules. Tesla counted his steps when he walked carefully, calculated the amount of food he ate, and was extremely sensitive to germs. He also never married, believing that romantic relationships might distract him from his work. For Tesla, science and new ideas were always the most important things. But Tesla did not want to stop at improving the electrical system. He had an even bigger dream. Tesla imagined a world where electricity could be transmitted across the entire planet without wires. He believed it would be possible to use the Earth itself and the atmosphere to transmit energy. If successful people everywhere could use electricity for free anywhere in the world, is less than #0. 7# is greater than. It was an incredibly bold idea, so bold that many people at the time thought it was completely crazy. To turn this dream into reality, Tesla began building a massive structure called the Wardenclyffe Tower on Long Island in 1901. The tower was designed to transmit energy and wireless signals across the world. A wealthy investor named J.B. Morgan provided funding for the project. At first, everything progressed quite well. Is less than #0. 7# is greater than. But when Morgan realized that Tesla intended to provide free electricity to people everywhere, he began to question the practicality of the project. Morgan eventually asked Tesla a very famous question. If electricity is free, where do we put the meter? That question clearly reflected the mindset of many investors at the time. They could not see how they could make a profit from a system that provided free electricity. As a result, Morgan decided to stop funding the project. When the money stopped, construction at Wardenclyffe stopped as well. Tesla's global energy transmission tower was never completed. His greatest dream slowly faded away. After that failure, Tesla's life began to change. He appeared in public less and less, and gradually lost his financial support. Even so, he continued thinking about new ideas. Tesla spoke about remote control radar, wireless communication, and many other technologies at a time when they were still unfamiliar to the world. Many people back then did not understand what he was talking about and believed he had become eccentric. Is less than hash 0. 7 hash is greater than. In reality, many of Tesla's ideas would later become important technologies of the 20th century. In the final years of his life, Tesla lived a rather lonely life in hotels around New York. He often moved from one hotel to another when he could no longer afford to pay the bills. Yet he still kept a special daily habit. Tesla would often walk to the park to feed pigeons. He once said that he felt closer to those birds than to people. There was one white pigeon that he cared for deeply, and he even said that it was his closest friend. In January 1943, Tesla was 86 years old and living alone in a small room at the New Yorker hotel. One day he told the hotel staff not to disturb him. A few days later, when a housekeeper entered the room, she discovered that Tesla had passed away in his bed. He left this world quietly, with almost no significant possessions, is less than hash 0. 7 hash is greater than. Yet news of his death quickly spread around the world, and many scientists began to speak about the true importance of the inventions he had left behind. Today, when you turn on a light, charge your phone, or use electrical devices, you are very likely using principles that Tesla discovered more than a century ago. His story reminds us that sometimes the greatest ideas come from the most unconventional minds. If you enjoy historical stories like this and want to explore the world while improving your English listening skills, remember the name of the channel, Echoes of Time, is less than hash 0. 7 hash is greater than, and write in the comments which historical figure you would like to hear about in the next video.